I don't suppose I need to tell any of you that artificial intelligence is hot right now. And of course, we've been using machine learning in our product for a long time in the statistical analysis of tests. But what I wanted to talk about today is testing AI-generated content for SEO. And there's a warning. Here be dragons. So I was sparked to think about this off the back of this tweet from Micah on the dangers of testing GPT-generated content and so forth. And this was off the back of one of our blog posts where we'd written up a specific case study looking at a test adding our content to a page and seeing particular markets' strong uplifts. And so I wanted to dive into a little bit of the specifics because actually I agree that there's a lot of depth needed, a lot of thinking needed in how you approach testing AI-generated content for SEO. So I've got 3 points to make today. Remembering the goal, watching out for hallucinations, and considering the broader landscape. So let's take each of those in turn. The goal, of course, is to remember that if your users aren't happy, better rankings won't help you for a start, because the folks who find your website through search aren't going to do whatever it is that you want them to do on your website, and you're not going to get the conversions that you look for. But actually, I'd go even further than that and say that they won't last because your objectives are fundamentally misaligned with what Google is trying to achieve. And so a big part of how we think about this, of course, is to think in terms of full funnel testing. So adding in conversion rate testing thinking alongside the SEO test to measure the full funnel impact of the change. And if you're seeing that impact be positive across the board, then I personally would be much more inclined to think that there's a strong opportunity for the medium to long term here. The second part is about watching out for hallucinations, because this is still a big downside of AI-generated content right now, is that they make stuff up. Now, of course, humans can make things up, but you can have a lot more in terms of brand safety guidelines and editorial control over human-written content in a way that is tricky when it's machine-generated. And so you basically need to put brand safety high up the agenda. Now, how high up the agenda is going to depend on your own risk tolerance and your brand guidelines and the industry you're in and so on and so forth. But for sure, it's going to need to be higher up when you're talking about AI-generated content than it is tests. And finally, you need to consider the changing landscape. So I'm sure I don't need to tell you that Google's algorithm changes over time, and it's inevitable that Google is going to treat this stuff differently in a year's time to the way that it's treating it today. So some of that is about going back and retesting things that you've already tested, which is a topic I've talked about before. But it's also about realizing that the state of the art is going to continue to evolve and improve. And so this is definitely an area where you shouldn't see it as a static one-shot test outcome that is then good forever. Because Google's going to change, the best state of the art is going to change, your competitors are going to change. And so you're going to want to revisit this and run incremental tests over time and continue to tweak and improve. And I think this is definitely part of building a big testing program. So just to revisit those, it's about remembering the goal. This is not just about manipulating search engines, it's about doing stuff that's good for your users who find you through search. Watching out for hallucinations and considering brand safety, and considering the fact that the machine learning landscape is going to change, as well as Google's landscape is going to change. And so you're going to want to build out a testing program that takes into account all of those things. Take it easy.